Before I continue, I feel I must mention by listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultations with your healthcare professionals. We're here to share stories and give hope. Please consult your own physician for any medication questions or medical issues that you may be having. Our bodies are uniquely ours, and something that may work for one person may not necessarily work for you. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Davies, and this is Menieres Muse. This week I'm sharing part one in a two-part series of a heartwarming conversation with Nicolle about her vestibular journey with menieres, sudden sensorineural hearing loss, SSHL, Bppv, TMJ, and cervicogenic dizziness that began in 2017. Nicolle is a Columbia American artist and hearing health advocate based in Miami, Florida. In 2017, she suffered from sudden unilateral deafness and an unexpected incident that led to menieres disease. Nicolle has partnered with Hearing Health Foundation and Vestibular Disorders Association, VITA, where she donates her time and art to benefit their fundraising initiatives. As a result of her work raising awareness about hearing loss and invisible disabilities, she was awarded the Leadership Scholarship by Americans for Arts in 2018. Recently, she was featured in Vestibular Disorders Association's docuseries called Life Rebalance Chronicles, raising awareness about vestibular disorders. Please welcome VITA Ambassador Nicolle. Well, welcome, Nicolle.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks
Yes,
for the invite.
I'm so happy we finally connected. So
Likewise, I just say I've listened to all the different episodes, and even though we all have like a common thread, everybody has a different take on these conditions, right? And it's really refreshing to hear how everybody goes through it. So thank you for doing this for everybody.
No problem. Well, on that note, would you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into your vestibular journey.
Sure thing. My name is Nicolle Cure. I'm a Colombian American artist. I live in Miami, Florida, and I'm also a professional, and a health advocate. Hearing health advocate. And after my hearing loss in 2017, I started really putting myself out there in social media. And after I did that, it was more for me to find answers. And then I started connecting with other people. And I truly can say I found one of my biggest passions, because I feel like my art is just a tool to get to different people who are actually going through something like this, because I communicate through my art. I even created a collection based on, my hearing loss experience. And I feel it has been a blessing in disguise after my hearing loss occurred in 2017. That's in a nutshell. It's a bigger story.
Right.
But feel free to ask me questions.
No problem. And when did your symptoms come on?
So my hearing loss was overnight. I remember it was a Thursday evening. Since I'm an artist, I'm in Miami, there's a lot of shows and things going on. I remember going to an art exhibit, and the art exhibit was in a hotel in downtown. And I were going pretty rapidly up, and then everybody in the cabin, in the elevator, felt like a high pressure. But, everybody kind of felt it and say, wow, my ears hurt and all that. But, pretty common, you've all felt it sometime when you're in the elevator that's going too fast. And then after a while, I kept, I remember that I couldn't hear well, but then my ears were not clogged anymore, and I was able to have conversations and all that. The next morning, it's a Friday, I wake up to go to the office, and I could tell something was wrong. I couldn't really pinpoint it because I felt strange. The first thing I noticed was that I couldn't feel my right cheek. I lost the sensation under my eye and the back of my head. And that was very odd. And then I also realized I couldn't hear out of my right ear. But like everything, sometimes you just say, oh, well, maybe my ear is clogged, I'm coming down with a cold, blah, blah. And I went to the office, and I remember talking to a colleague, and she said, why don't you go to the ER? That's of odd that you don't feel your, under your eye and all that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the urgent care, but just to see, because it's Friday and I don't want the weekend to go over. And then I go there and the doctor is doing all these tests with my eyes and everything. And he got really concerned. And he's like, I don't really like it that you can't hear part of, that not only that you cannot hear, but that you cannot feel parts of your head. So I am going to prescribe, I'm going to order a CT scan, but I want you to go to an ENT right now. I know it's Friday, so I know it's hard to find an appointment, but try your best. So, it was very lucky because I got an appointment like an hour after I went to the urgent care, and they did an audiology. And yeah, and I remember I was in the cabin in the audiology, and then when they tested my good ear, everything is fine. And then when I tested the right ear, I couldn't even hear the instructions, so I didn't know they were talking to me. So I was waiting in silence, and I'm like, this is odd, like nobody's talking to me. Right. And then somebody pats my back, said, hey, the test is over. You couldn't hear any of the instructions. So, based on everything that we did, you have 100% hearing loss. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Is it coming back? Like, is this like an infection? Like, what's the level? We don't know. This is the part where we need to send you to a specialist, a neurologist, ENT, like someone who has, who's seen these cases. But it was a Friday. So what they did is they put me on steroids, like oral steroids. And I reacted horribly to them. I started getting hives and like red spots in my skin. I felt super irritated and tired, and I said I want to take them. So I called the doctor and they're like, well, if it's giving you all that, stop taking them and let me see you on Monday, right? On Monday, I went to see the same ENT that I saw on Friday because I still had not had an appointment with a bigger clinic, And then she said, well, because the steroids are not working, I'm gonna try, with your permission, the injection. Like they give you
really?
They give you now I can't, gentamicin.
Mm-hmm.
And with something else, it's like trying to revive the cells in your inner ear. But because it's also very dangerous because they have to perforate, the inner ear, they ask you to sign all these forms. And I'm like, you know what, everything or anything, I just want to try it. Also, it's very expensive. The injection was like $5,000 and the insurance didn't cover it. Yeah. And then that was my first injection. I ended up having 9 injections. Holy
moly, Nicolle.
Yeah. I think it was in 3 months or almost 3 months, I ended up having 9 intratympanic injections. But that, I can tell you more about that later. So it was horrible. I don't know if you've had an injection in the inner ear. Have you had any injections?
I have not.
They're not nice. They put you, kind of like on the side, like if you were at the dentist appointment, that you're like in the chair, reclined all the way back, and they, move you towards your side, and then they inject you, and then a nurse is holding you because you immediately start getting like a vertigo attack reaction right away.
Did you have any vertigo prior to that?
So I can't recall. No, I think I did not, because this was the 3rd day after my onset, right? So that was kind of the first vertigo attack I experienced because of the injection. So then they sent you home and, take it easy. So after that, I started experiencing horrible migraines that I thought it wasn't even a migraine. I thought something was wrong with my brain. It was so painful. I would wake up in the middle of the night screaming like I couldn't. It's like my head was gonna fall off. The pain was so bad. My eye and the back of my head, the sensation wasn't coming back, but then the pain inside was so horrible. So I would wake up crying and screaming, and they take me to my fiance take to the ER, and they couldn't do anything for me. They would say, you're in the middle of trying to diagnose what's happening, so we can only send you home with meclizine for the dizziness and the vertigo. But there was nothing that they could do. Like I would stay there for hours, and they would just kind of bring me down, like, because I was so stressed and all that. But then I would go home, and it would be so debilitating because I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, what do I take? What do I do? And then after that day, my tinnitus started increasing. So I was getting really high static and siren sounds and things like that. I could not sleep at all. So I wasn't getting any sleep. And then being would, like kick up like more migraines and more. And then I started getting vertigo attacks. So like every single day I was having vertigo attacks. So it was, like the whole mix. I was getting migraines, my ear hurt, tinnitus, sleep deprivation. I was just so miserable, right? And then after a while, somebody referred me to the U Health Institute. So the University of Miami has like a specific clinic for loss and vestibular conditions. And the first doctor that saw me said, say that this is an emergency and they will see you faster because it is an emergency. You just lost your hearing. So they got me like an appointment like in 4 days, something like that. And I went to see a great doctor, and Dr. Shragi. And then he, several tests, audiologies, all that. So that's where the first diagnosis came in. So the first one was bilateral eye drops. So he still didn't want to call it menieres because it wasn't long enough, like for him to know how many days I was getting vertigo attacks and how many days that he didn't want to label it as menieres just yet because it's like, I still don't have enough data. I still don't have enough information to know like how many vertigo attacks are you getting? What's the duration? Your hearing loss, we're still testing that. But he did say I had high pressure in both ears, not just the one that I lost my hearing. And that, that I needed to go full force with the injections. And, they always ask you, do you want to continue the treatment? Because first, it's a little dangerous. Second, it's very expensive. So do you want to do it? And I said, sure, like what other thing, there's no other options, And it wasn't just that I was dealing with hearing loss. I was just dealing with all those symptoms that I just couldn't lead a normal life. I would wake up and then immediately when I would wake up, I would have a vertigo attack right away. Opening my eyes, boom, I would fall down. Like if I try to walk to my closet or to my bathroom, immediately I would get a vertigo attack. So I was just like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's expensive, if it's not, I'm just going to try these injections. So in the period of 3 months, I ended up having 9 because the protocol is only 3. But if at the third one, it doesn't work, they stop. They say, if there's no changes in your hearing, nothing is happening, we say, that's it. We're not going to try anymore. But the third one, nothing happened. So supposedly we're going to stop the protocol. And then I have a cousin who is an ENT in Argentina. And I was sharing with her the whole process. And she said, Nicolle, why don't you try the 4th injection just to like give it a try, And I said, oh my God, this is so painful. I don't want to go through this anymore. They already said, she's like, I have a feeling, I don't know. She kind of anticipated something. So I went for the 4th injection. And after the 4th injection, I was home and I remember hearing something like a crackling in my ear. Something was like opening. I was like, oh my God. I was telling to my friends, like, I think I can hear something, but I don't know. I hear something different in my ear. So I called the doctor and they're like, oh no, you have to come tomorrow. I need to check. So apparently my hearing 10%, like from 0 to 10%. And then they said, you know what? I think it's responding. We're going to have to go every 3 days. They kind of start spreading them out more. So first it's like 3 days, it's like 5 days. Again, ended up having 9. So at the end of 9, like by the 7th, it kind of stopped working. So they did the 8th and the 9th just to try. And then that's where we got to like 35% of my hearing that I got back. And then I stopped. And that's what I got back. So that's just on the hearing loss side of things. Yeah.
Right. Did the injections help with anything else besides getting you back to that 35%?
I think they helped with, it's hard to say because I never know if the injections caused my vertigo attacks because I wasn't getting them the days before.
Right.
Or the injections improve my tinnitus, but I think they only improve my hearing loss because honestly, my tinnitus is still present. It's just not so loud. But because I've done so much research on tinnitus, it's like your brain gets used to it. So it's not that it's not there. I just feel like I'm used to it. I hear it, and and then like later in time, I found out that other people that I knew had tinnitus, and they're like, I didn't even know it's called tinnitus. I just thought I had that, or that people hear the same thing I hear, or whatever. So I think like my brain got used to it, so I can't really tell if it got me to a better place besides the hearing that I gained.
Right.
I want to, because after like a year or 2, my vertigo attacks were almost non-existent. I haven't had a vertigo attack in a while, but my dizziness and my brain fog they still persist, though now I have a normal life. Now I'm able to walk. Now I'm able to, I mean, I couldn't even walk before. I literally could not walk. I was swaying to the right all the time. And I had bruises in my legs because I thought that the door was here and it was on the other side. It was like such a weird thing, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think like time and rest, and I had to stop working 100%, had to stop working. I wasn't functional at all. So like for almost like 2 years, I didn't go into an office. I didn't drive. I didn't, everything I did was going to the hospital, back home, going to the doctor, back home, or, going to the store, to the grocery store, but I would always go with somebody. So that was like my life, the 2 years after being diagnosed with bilateral hydrops and well, the term is sudden sensorineural hearing loss, right? For deafness. But yeah, after that, many other things came with it, which I came to discover after. But that was my initial diagnosis. Yeah.
Did you have a history of migraines before this?
So I did, but I was told they were hormonal, and they are still hormonal because, around my period, I always get these strong, like very bad migraines. And I never put the two and two together until somebody told me, like the neurologist, well, have you written down when it happens? And then she concluded that, okay, I think they're hormonal. So they never really told me they were vestibular, but after my hearing loss, I started going to different neurologists, and one of them diagnosed me with vestibular migraine. He said that I had the symptoms. He said that everything I was saying, so they put me on medicine for that. But the medicine would give me other horrible side effects. So one of them was my brain was so, I feel like I forget, like I used to forget the meaning of the words. Like I was talking to someone and I couldn't find a word, or I couldn't describe something. I was like constantly brain fogged. Like I couldn't, it was super strange. I tried to tell somebody as basic, like, can you pass me the keys? And I couldn't find the word keys in my brain. It was so weird. And then
I was on a medication that did the same thing. It
really
was crazy.
I think mine was topiramate.
That's what mine was.
Okay,
yes,
that's
Topamax.
the one.
Yeah.
Everybody I've spoken to about that medicine, because I spoken to different people in the community, and they're like, oh my God, same thing. I thought I was going crazy. And it's like, no, it's the medicine, apparently.
It is totally the medicine.
And then you're like, okay, now I'm going crazy. Like now I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, and my brain is, on fire. But yeah, like, so I went through so many different medications, treatments. I also had Bppv. So I was diagnosed with that, which is also confusing because I never knew when the vertigo attack was coming from just my Bppv or because of my regular Meniere, my lateral hydrops diagnosis. So, I mean, it's easy to identify when it's positional. Did they what? I'm sorry, I missed
That's
that.
okay. You were going the same way I was going to ask.
Yeah.
The Bppv maneuver helped.
Yes, totally. And I actually went through 8 to 10 vestibular retraining therapies. And those helped a lot. Right. And especially with walking, because they would ask me to walk and I would always I would close my eyes and I would always be on the other side of the room. Like I had no idea where I was going. And she's like, well, you traveled from point A to B and you thought you were like marching in place. But
oh gosh, yeah.
Your brain is not calculated. Yeah. But it helped because I know like the Bppv was, the diagnosis came, when they asked me, like, when does that happen? When have you noticed a different type of dizziness? And I said, well, when I'm laying in bed watching TV and when my fiance calls me or something and I turn to the right, that's immediately when I get a vertigo attack. So they said, well, it's Bppv. We need to assess if the crystals are out of place. And they were. So that kind of went away, after the therapies. I got a couple of vertigo attacks, the regular ones after, but then I would say like after the first year and a half, they stopped, like no more vertigo attacks, just lingering dizziness, brain fog, tiredness, feeling, like off. That's what remained.
Right. Well, that's good. We can deal with that. The vertigo is so debilitating.
The other one is life altering. You feel like you need to be in bed. However, I'm going to say like the other part, the lingering symptoms, they're also tough too, because now I went back to work. And then people see you like you dress up, you look nice, right? The whole, you know, stigma that, you know, you look good, but we don't know. And then like they sometimes like you yourself forget that you are not like 100% and you're like pushing yourself to the limit and people are pushing you to the limit. And then you have like another crash. So like on and off, I've been having those moments where I'm like so burnt out and I feel like the worst again, because trying to live a normal life, you just do everything like, you know, superwoman. And
Now,
then that's where you're like, no.
Does your work know about
Yeah,
all of this? They are. Okay.
they do, because actually when this happened, I was working with the same group, the same company, and then I left the company for 2, and I wasn't gonna come back. I mean, I'm an artist, but I also love the world of advertising and marketing, which is what I majored in. So I always kind of debated, do I go back? You know, and then my ex-boss presented me with a new project and said, hey, why don't you try it? We really need you. We want you to come back and like try this out, see how it goes. And then it's been like 2 years since I came back to that job, but it's very high-paced, very demanding. And since I have a art studio as well at home and I continue working on my art and my art projects, is basically working on 2 jobs. And I push myself a lot because I know like I have to deliver in this job, the day job, and I also have my projects that I want to keep, you know, like going and shows and things that I have to do. So sometimes I just need to like take a breather and my body's telling me, can't do it. You have migraines, you have this, like you need to rest today and take it easy. If not, you won't be able to do this again. So that's a given.
I wanted to ask you something. You had mentioned when I was reading over your things, you said that you had the numbness on your face.
Yes.
When you had that on your face, was it one-sided?
Yeah.
Okay. And did it go up on your scalp also?
A little bit, but it was more here. So it was exactly this area. Okay. It was here, like this area, and the back, like the back of my ear. And then sometimes I would feel like I would touch my head on top of the head and feel like it's tingling, but I still can feel my fingers tapping. Here, it was like under the eye, was really hard to feel. Like I would feel my tapping, my fingers, but very, very low, like it almost nothing, no sensation. That was where it was scary. But then they thought, oh, could it be Bell's palsy? But then they said no, because your face is not like uneven, like usually that's what happens, or you have like a muscle spasm or something like that. But that wasn't the case. I looked totally normal, but I was the one telling the specialist, I just don't feel it, you know. After a while, I always ask, like, what do you think that was? And then they said, I think your inner ear, the nerves were so swollen, or, you know, so like that you had an inflammation, a severe inflammation that altered the sensation. Because of that, all that area, the eye and the ear and everything is connected. So that's what they assume it was like a very, very severe. Like,
do you have that every once in a while still, that sensation?
No, not really.
None at
it's
all.
just that first 3 months. Actually, it lasted about 3 months. And then
the reason I ask is because I have vestibular migraine as well as menieres. And when I'm overdoing things, one of my first signs is pressure on the side of my head and numbness across my cheeks. I mean, across my lips. And it will last until I make some adjustments to whatever is going on in my life right then. And my neurologist told me that he thinks that's my vestibular migraine, because it's not migraine pain. It's just like a warning. And it's like a precursor before my vertigo starts.
Oh.
Like an aura almost, if you will.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, that's not good, but like, that's interesting to know, because it's like an alert.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. So now I know if I'm starting to get that, I'm like, okay, am I stressed? Do I need hydration? What's going on that I can make these changes right now? Because if I don't listen, then I have vertigo. But it's been a while, because I'm learning, you know, you learn your body as you go. Yeah. So I was just curious.
It's more, no, with me, like, well, that lasted about like 3 months. But then with me, mention it's TMJ. I mean, I have TMJ.
Right.
I was treated with with Botox for TMJ because it was so painful, and I still wake up sometimes with these that I feel like my jaw is gonna fall off. Like, it's so.
Do you still wear a night guard?
Not really. I'm bad. I'm like, I have to, but the thing is your teeth start shifting with the night guard, so you have to go to the specialist constantly, and these treatments are not covered by the insurance. Like all the treatments that I needed, they're not covered, and they're very pricey. So the scans and everything you have to do like MRIs constantly to see where your jaw is and all that. So I know I have to do Botox in Florida, or at least my insurance doesn't cover it. I know friends that suffer from vestibular migraine in New York, and they get Botox like covered by their insurance, but not me. So, so it's all these things that I know that are available to me, like I could make me feel better, but I would have to obviously do this out of pocket. And sometimes when you're doing so many different treatments at the same time, it's very hard to keep up with all these appointments and all these treatments. So.
Right. And today you're on the other side as far as the vertigo. What is your most debilitating symptom today?
I would say, well, I have also cervicogenic dizziness. So my neck pain, my TMJ and my migraines are still present. But what bothers me the most is the brain fog. When I don't feel like I don't feel clarity in my brain, like I'm trying to have a conversation. I mean, today I'm super clear because I got a good night's sleep, because I knew we were going to be having a conversation. So I need to like prepare and hydrate and sleep. Like, you know, when you and I talked, I mentioned, let's do it on a Sunday where I'm totally, you know, but right. But like, it's like I have to ultra especially also when I travel, you get all these symptoms. The high pressure and the heat make me feel worse. So I feel it when it's a very bad, like humid day, and my tinnitus goes up. I'm dehydrated. I have to take care of that because I don't drink enough water. So that's one of my, the culprit for that, but that makes me worse. So I would say tinnitus, when I don't get a good night's sleep or I don't drink enough water, my tinnitus is off like it's so bad. And then the pressure, the TMJ, the neck pain, and the migraines in one side. So it's mostly on the top of my head. My eye starts kind of like doing this, like blinking, like, I don't know, like it's this thick, and then the back of my head in the right. So it's all in the right side of my head, mostly. Even the TMJ, when I wake up, I notice that when I try to massage my cheeks and all these, it's the right one that is the most painful. So there's something on the right side that it's not liking it.
Right. That's crazy. Do you have
Those are my most severe. And then when I do get that bad migraine, I'm out for the day. I do. Well, I did. Now it's very mild because I'm very sensitive to sound, to the point that sometimes I am annoyed by sound. Like I go to a place and I start to get super cranky, even though there's no pain. Because before, for like 6 months to a year, I had painful hyperacusis. So those were the very tough days. I couldn't leave my house. And then my fiance had to like walk on eggshells around the house, because anything that would move or make a sound, I literally would start crying. It was very, very painful. I had to wear my special plugs, you know, with the filters around the house. I had to get in my closet when he was moving something around the house or just doing like the dishes. I literally had to go and put like a towel on my head with the earplugs and lock myself in the closet because I could hear the vibration and the sound.
Right.
It's crazy, right? It looks like,
oh, yeah.
When I explain it to people, it's like if I was Spider-Man, like that would hear everything amplified, and that would be painful. So it wasn't fun or cool. It was painful. Now it's more like the annoyance of sound and the high pitch sounds. Like if I just had like an event 3 days ago and I was sitting in a table like next to like 10 different women. They were having a conversation and they were like, you know, very loud, and the music was playing. And I had to excuse myself. I had to go to the restroom because I was so annoyed by the sound. And it's just the combination of everything, environmental and the high pitch, that drives me crazy.
What do they call that?
Misophonia.
Misophonia.
So I always wonder, because I know misophonia. I listened to this podcast that I found that it's just for, you know, tells the stories of people with misophonia, but they seem to get annoyed with specific sounds, like the chewing sound or somebody that, you know, like the chalk on the board, or like, or when somebody's doing dishes, that specific sounds like they either hate it or they fear it.
Okay, it's
For
not a
me,
broader thing.
I don't know, like if it's, because it's definitely not fear, but it's more like I'm really annoyed, so I need to leave. But it's not to the point that I fear that I need to run away and don't come back to the place, right?
Right.
So that's why I don't think I land on that, though I'm always curious because I never know. Like sometimes I'm like, could it be that I don't like that sound and it's misophonia? I don't know. But
right. Well, I wanted to ask you about the hearing, the special made hearing. I'm sorry.
the plus.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask you about those.
Okay. I get that question all the time because when I show them on my stories, people are like, what are those? I haven't seen. I'm like, so it's really a musician earplug. And it's me because my fiance is also a musician. And that's where my collection came about, because we were both interpreting and talking about sound. He was explaining to me how frequencies work. So yeah, first time I saw a musician earplug was because he uses them for, you know, recording, like when he's in loud studios and things like that. But when I went to the ENT and my audiologist, I love my audiologists. They're so amazing at the UHealth Institute. So shout out to them. But she was telling me, because you're so annoyed by the high pitched noises, I think we need to get you a custom earplug with the filters that tune out those type of frequencies. So they did several tests to kind of pinpoint which ones are those frequencies. And then they just, you know, do the mold and all that in the office, send that out. Then they come back with these clear earplugs. But
now, are they just earplugs or are they hearing aids also?
No, so I got both hearing aids, because mostly I got the hearing aids as a tinnitus retraining therapy, because I was struggling with tinnitus so much that they do that program where they have the hearing aid and then they play that white noise sound all day long. I have an app on my phone and all that. But to be honest, super honest, I'm not using my hearing aid. Why? Because, well, first I can hear fine with the other ear, even though they tell me this is not good, because I'm getting used to forcing my other ear to do like to try to catch sound when I shouldn't. But the hearing aids, the reality is that nobody really tells you, but like it's very tricky to wear a hearing aid, because the sounds around you, especially when you have hyperacusis, they come, like if I'm in my office and 3 people come to talk to me, then it gets super loud, because it's like the volume is up, but then I have to adjust it. Then I have to look for my phone to adjust it, you know? And then it's just one person, I can't hear them because I decrease the volume. So it's kind of like,
I was involved in a study for hyperacusis, and they have where, let's see if I can explain it. It is a silicone-based earplug. However, it has a hearing aid that goes to it. But what they do is they find the amplification. They find the tolerance, my intolerance level, because hyperacusis is my worst symptom. And they find my tolerance level and they adjust it. So when it starts to peak at that tolerance level, it cuts off my hearing. I cannot hear anything from that level, those levels that are painful for me. Now it's just a study.
I need that.
Yes, it is wonderful. And along with that, it has like the pink or the white noise. It depends on who you talk to inside there for the tinnitus, and it also helps with the hyperacusis and kind of like a distraction. But I will tell you, I did that for 10 months, and then they took my hearing aids away and my hyperacusis improved. But I was so reliant on the hearing aids, I missed them. But
that's incredible. So it did work for you. It did
work for me. And I've been off of it for about a year, and I've noticed that my sensitivity is still there, but it's bearable. I just kind of, you know, hold my breath like, you know, we all do, just kind of just push through it. But yeah, so those should be out soon. I keep watching because they're gonna make a world of difference.
I did that one, the one that they give you. I did that one. It's just the TNT, the tinnitus retraining therapy, where they put a small, it's your hearing aid. I think it's the same thing. And then they put silicone one so that you don't get all the sound in. However, I did not have the part where, I mean, I had everything like the high pitch noises were filtered out, and then I was hearing the peak noise or the white noise.
Right.
But it didn't have like the stop that you got. Like it didn't have a way to tune out, like, okay, it's too loud.
Right.
Stop, like cut off the sound, right? I guess I would have to ask my audiologist if that's like a new thing or so, because I still have my hearing aid, and to be honest, my dad, it's, you know, now that he's older, he's experiencing hearing loss, like because of age. And I'm like, Dad, why don't you just use my hearing loss? Because I'm not using it. So he went to talk to his audiologist, and then she's like, why is your daughter not using her hearing aid? I don't understand. Like, if the doctor gave her the hearing aid for a reason, she should know better. And I'm like, oh God, I have to go back and test myself again. And that's coming up because I really haven't this past year and a half tested, because it's like, oh, well, I already know what I have. And to be honest, you get medical appointment fatigue. I went to so many doctors for so long that at one point I said, I do not want to go into a hospital anymore.
I hear you.
I don't want to make another appointment. I already know that I have this in the neck. I already know I have to do massages, physical therapy, be mindful, but I don't want to be there again and have to get a prescription. And so but I feel like it's been a little bit, and again, I'm seeing that. So that's full transparency. I'm saying that because it has to happen. And maybe it's time to go back to the using the hearing aid and just being consistent about it. So that's where I think I am.
It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe
I don't know if this happened to you as a woman, like when your hair touches the hearing aid, don't you feel like it's like a mic on? So whatever movement I did, I felt like somebody's tapping a microphone tuk, 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 all the time.
Yeah.
So it was annoying, and then I ended up taking it off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can make something that's less sensitive, but that you can work with.
Right.
I think they say that if you don't use hearing aids when you need them, your hearing will get worse. And there's all kinds of studies with Alzheimer's and things like that.
And dementia as
Yeah.
well. I know. No, I've been reading, well, now that my dad is dealing, and I recently discovered, and I don't want to go into this because it's too long of a conversation, but this basically shocked me. I recently discovered that my younger brother also apparently experienced the same as me, but he was younger, so he didn't know how to explain it when it happened. So he thought it was like that it was attention deficit, that he wasn't concentrating in class.
Right.
So it pains me because when he started kind of reading my blog again, and it's like, I went through all this similar, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like I went to the doctor, I got attention, and you didn't. Like, please tell me everything you went through because I want to help you now. So now I'm thinking, is it a genetical thing? Because if my brother and I both experience, and it's the same ear, is the right ear. It's
Right.
crazy. So, I mean, he's now taking care of making appointments and a lot, because I truly want to now put the two cases together and discover like what are the similarities and what's different for him. Because, you know, when he told me all these things, he wasn't aware of all, like, because when he read my blog, like, because I keep a note of everything, he was like, oh yeah, I hear that whooshing, or this, I didn't know it was called tinnitus, you know. And I was like, I can't believe my own brother it's dealing with similar things. But because I did look for, like, because I was working, I went to the ER in the middle of the workday and all that, like, I think I got into a path where I got in the right path, like going to specialists, getting the terms, the medical terms, knowing everything, how it works. Well, now he has me to explain, but like, but I'm happy to like learn more from him, because now it's like, well, the same two people in the same family have similar things. So now I want to understand it from maybe a genetical, you know, standpoint. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know if you find anything out, because I have a couple friends that have menieres, and they're just found out that their elderly mothers have experienced symptoms but never got diagnosed. So it's very, yeah, it's very interesting.
Did they get vertigo though? Because my brother said he's never had a vertigo attack. That he thinks he has hearing loss and he has TMJ and the dizziness, but he's never told me about a drop attack or a vertigo attack. So
right,
might be different.
And they have, but not as frequently as you or I had it. They were just once or twice a year. but always once or twice a year, for like a day, but not any longer, not that long span that I experienced for you.
Long period.
Yeah.
Did your vertigo, you say your vertigo attacks stopped too, right? Like you're no longer one.
They have. I am dizzy every day, but the vertigo has stopped. It's been almost 4 months, I think.
Oh, wonderful. Oh my God. Yeah. It feels like you gained your life back once that stopped.
Like, sometimes I even forget how bad it was till I sit and read something that I wrote, or it's like, wow.
Or when you get really dizzy one, you're like, no, not again, please. I once got like 3 months ago, I got so dizzy. I was drinking like lemon water and smelling like a little Kleenex with alcohol because I couldn't get rid of the nausea. And I'm like, oh, please, like, I don't want this to be a full-blown attack.
Yeah.
And I took it easy, but I think it's the way of our, like you said, our body telling us, you need to stop. This is my first warning sign. Stop whatever you're doing. But I don't know if it's a stress related. You think yours was stress related, like the onset of everything, or not?
I know it was. Mine, I look back at my calendar and there was no white space at all. I was not only working 40 plus hours a week, I was also taking 5 classes in school, taking care of my little ones, just doing everything and running a fitness group. And I also received my first flu shot 2 weeks prior. So I think everything, and I think it's because I was only sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, and that was generous on top of everything else. So
no, definitely you were under a lot. Your body was under a lot of stress.
Yeah,
I think mine too. To be honest, I worked for years. I think I drove my body into the complete depletion mode. I know it. I know it for a fact because I was burned out. The definition of burnout. Even people around me said, like, maybe this was a blessing in disguise because you were never resting, always going. And here's the thing, now I'm like back to that in a way, and I'm like, I need to be mindful that this is, and but now I talk to myself, like when I'm having that, it's like, okay, Nicolle, just watch Netflix today. I know you want to paint 3 paintings today, and you want to work on your blog, and you have to go into the office, but just watch a movie. Go.
It's giving ourselves that permission to rest.
Yeah.
Because we're so go. I know.
No, my fiance is my first. I love him. I mean, he tells me, do you have somebody knocking on your door, like forcing you to do those 3 paintings today? Like, do you have to do that today, or you are giving yourself that like deadline that it's impossible to meet? Like, you have to watch that. He tells me, like, you need to put yourself in a relaxation mode on the weekends when you can. But of course, my studio, I run it on the weekends because that's the time I have, and so it's hard. The modern life is hard. Everybody you talk to, it's either because they have kids or they have different jobs or they're traveling for work. It's never like I feel like I'm not the only one dealing with this, but definitely something in my body. It was the perfect storm, and this happened, and maybe happening in my life, environmental or food, I wasn't getting the right nutrition maybe at that time, all those things, right?
So right,
what it is,
everything. Thank you for joining me, Heather Davies, and my guest Nicolle on this week's episode of Menieres Muse. If you would like to reach out, please see the show notes for our email addresses, websites, or find us on Instagram. If you would like more information on vestibular disorders, please find the VITA website at vestibular.org. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if this episode or any others resonated with you, please take a moment and share this with another vestibular warrior or family member. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Menieres Muse for updates. I'll see you next week, warriors.